The movie kicks off with a flashback of two cops, Dylan and Frank, on the hunt for some bad guys. Things go south when Frank is killed and Dylan wrestles with another suspect. But then, boom, he wakes up in his car next to his wife, Brainer. Oh, and Brenner? She's not your average wife. She's ex-special forces. So basically, she can snap a guy in half. They're on a road trip when some redneck in a truck pulls up, telling Brenner she should be with a real man. She doesn't waste words, just flips him off, and he speeds off, tail between his legs. The couple stops at a roadside cafe and Dylan heads to the bathroom to check on a wound from an earlier fight, because of course he got hurt. While he's away, guess who shows up? Yup, the redneck Butch and his gang. They circle Brainer, trying to act tough, but when Dylan steps in, Butch dares him to throw a punch. Brainer, being the brains of the operation, tells Dylan it's not worth the trouble, so the rednecks slink away. An older waitress named Mama comes over, shuts the rednecks down, and even puts the couple's order on Butch's tab, because apparently even Butch is scared of Mama. After leaving the cafe, the pair drive deeper into the countryside and set up a tent for some camping. A local woman spots them and warns that the neighbors aren't exactly welcoming. Later, while hiking, they get caught in the rain and take shelter in what looks like an abandoned cabin. They're soaking wet, the weather's nasty, so naturally they decide to, well, you know. Meanwhile, at a nearby church, a preacher is basically charging admission to heaven, with Butch and his crew running the collection. Real classy. Afterward, Dylan's stitches have popped, but instead of taking it easy, Brainer's eager to play detective. She finds a hidden door leading to a room full of guns and explosives. Just as they try to sneak out, surprise, Butch shows up and knocks them out cold. Brainer wakes up tied up, watching Butch beat the stuffing out of Dylan, demanding to know who they are. Butch doesn't buy the "we're just vacationing" excuse. One of his men discovers Dylan's a cop, and that's all Butch needs to hear. He shoots them both and has his crew dump their bodies in a nearby gully. For good measure, one of the goons steals Dylan's boots, because why not kick a man when he's down? Flashback time. We see Brainer's ranger training days, collapsing in the desert while carrying a fellow recruit. But her instructor yells at her to get up, and back in the present, her eyes snap open. Turns out her dog tag stopped the bullet. She breaks free of her restraints and mourns Dylan. She places her life-saving dog tag around his neck as a final gift before burying him under some branches. The next day, Brainer returns to the campsite, feeling guilty for Dylan's death. She pulls herself together, grabs an axe, and leaves. Butch and his men keep several women as slaves and think they should have kept Brainer as one of them. Mama, the real mastermind, runs the whole operation. Brainer, full of rage and revenge, sharpens a stake and heads to the cabin in the woods. She confronts a lone man, fights him, and impales him, killing him. She then heads inside, looking for more of the gang, remembering Dylan's last moments. Butch, during a weapons deal, warns the other guy not to cross Mama. The guy swears he's not messing around. Butch reports back to Mama that the deal went smoothly. Meanwhile, Brenner, now armed with her axe, starts hunting the men down. She comes across two of them walking. One of them steps away to relieve himself, giving Brenner the perfect chance to ambush him. She tries to take down the other one, and they end up in a brutal fight where she almost gets choked out. But she taps into her training and stabs him to death. The guy who took a bathroom break? She ties him by the neck to a tree. She demands to know where the rest are, but he refuses and throws an insult her way. Brainer, annoyed, hoists him up, nearly choking him, before cutting his leg and letting him run off. Brenner sets a gas trail and blows up a tanker, which Mama and Butch hear from their cabin. Mama, furious, sends Butch to check on the others. Brainer starts tracking the man she let go, but Butch arrives in his truck. He checks on the guy, unaware that Brenner has sneaked into his truck. The man tells Butch that Brainer's still alive, and they rush back to their Jeep and take off. They make it back to the house and help the injured man inside. Brainer, still armed with her axe, slips out of the truck just in time before Butch returns to grab something. Mama scolds Butch for not making sure Brainer was dead and orders him to fix it. She then sends one of the guys to look up Brainer online, and he realizes she's a ranger. Meanwhile, a hunter in the woods hears the explosion and starts looking around. He finds a dead body and radios for backup. Turns out, he's Sheriff Hobbs. Brainer, meanwhile, is out in the woods, setting up traps, getting ready for her revenge. Two of Hobbs's deputies arrive and identify the dead guy as part of Mama's Hill clan. Mama owns all the land around the area, and they've always avoided her. But this time, Hobbs plans to confront her. Back at the sheriff's office, the female dispatcher, who's secretly working for Mama, tips her off that Hobbs is on his way. Hobbs and his buddies showed up at Mama's place, spilling the beans about the dead guy. Mama, the cunning old fox, pretended the dude had offed himself. Hobbs, being the skeptical type, wasn't buying it, considering the 6 stab wounds. But Mama, being the master of deception, convinced her minions to back her up. She suggested they leave to plan a funeral, and the cops, being the gullible bunch they are, obliged. She told one of her goons to keep the sheriff far away while they hunted Brenner that night. Mama, Butch, and the clan gathered around a fire, raising a toast to their fallen comrade. The men, being the typical testosterone-fueled bunch, got drunk, howling at the moon like a pack of wolves. Soon, they were sprawled out around the fire, snoring like a herd of elephants. Butch, being the ever-thirsty soul, stumbled into a nearby shed to grab another drink. Suddenly, Brainer, the stealthy ninja, attacked him. Butch, being the tough guy he was, managed to fend her off. Brainer, using all her martial arts skills, struggled against the big man, taking a beating. She managed to grab a blade and finish Butch off. She then reclaimed her and Dylan's wedding rings, which Butch had stolen. She dragged Butch's body away, taking a breather and reminding herself why she was doing this. The next morning, Brainer was still lurking around the compound. She saw one of Mama's henchmen dragging a woman into a cabin. Keeping an eye on the passed-out men, Brainer sneaked into the cabin, where she found a group of girls locked up. She cut the chains, freeing them and leading them out. One of the girls, being the panicky type, started screaming. A man in the yard, hearing the commotion, grabbed his gun and started shooting. Brainer, being the badass she is, managed to kill him but had to make a hasty retreat as more men chased after them. Brainer and the girl ran through the woods, hoping to lose their pursuers. Meanwhile, Mama, being the ruthless leader she was alerted to Butch's demise. She ordered her men to unleash the hounds. One of her goons, Carl, was hot on Brenner's trail. He managed to shoot and injure the girl. He cornered them, thinking he had them in his sights. But Brenner, being the clever one, sprung one of her traps, killing him. She then grabbed his gun and took out another man who came chasing. Mama, seeing the carnage, came out to witness the chaos as her reinforcements arrived, ready to hunt Brainer down. Brainer and the girl, Emily, had a fish that Brainer had caught for dinner. Brainer made plans to continue their journey until they reached the highway. Emily was impressed by Brainer's skills and learned about her military background. She wanted to be like Brainer, but revealed that she was pregnant with Butch's baby. Mama, being the vengeful woman she was, would hunt her down. Emily thanked Brainer for treating her like a human being. Brainer, being the compassionate soul she was, promised to get her to safety. The next day, Brainer is by the creek cleaning up when she suddenly hears Emily scream, "The men have found her." Brainer quickly fights back, using one man as a shield and shooting the other when he tries to reload. Just then, Sheriff Hobbs shows up, but before Brainer can explain, a man shoots Hobbs. Brainer takes him down too. She helps Hobbs as the wound is only on his leg, and they move him along without realizing the hunters are closing in on them. They reach a dense part of the forest and decide to leave Hobbs there, hidden, while Brainer plans to lead the men away. Brainer and Emily head out, but unknowingly leave behind a trail of blood. Armed with his gun, Brainer hears the dogs barking in the distance. They rush to the river to lose the tracking dogs, but the men notice the blood trail and figure out where they're going. The men, with the dogs, reach the riverbank, but see no sign of them. Brainer and Emily are already on the other side, where they run into the woman who warned them earlier. They jump into her van, asking her to take them to town for help. Exhausted, Brainer and Emily fall asleep, but wake up in shock as men drag them out of the truck. The woman, it turns out, is working for Mama, who finally catches up with Brainer. Inside, both women are tied up. Mama is upset that Emily betrayed her and sentences her to death. But Brainer lies, saying she kidnapped Emily, who didn't want to come. Mama buys the story and has Emily taken away. Mama lists everything Brainer has done against her and says she'll pay for it with her life. Even with a gun pointed at her, Brainer laughs and says she'll kill Mama. Instead of finishing her off, Mama orders the men to lock her up. The men tie Brainer up by her arms in a lonely room and leave her there. That night, As the men gather outside, one of them plans to have his way with Brenner while she's tied up. Another man warns him not to, suggesting that Mama should just kill her right away. It's revealed that Mama intends to break Emily and use her like the other girls. Later, while Emily washes dishes, Mama confronts her. Mama decides to let Emily have her baby, but she plans to kill her afterward. Soon, the man who wanted to harm Brenner takes his turn watching her. Emily brings him breakfast, and in a fit of frustration, he tries to attack her. Brenner distracts him, and as he turns away, Emily stabs him, killing him. Emily then frees Brenner, who plans to take down everyone in the house. Brenner runs into the men and engages in battles, taking them out one by one. In the kitchen, two men are no match for her skills as she ambushes and kills them. One man gets the chance to end her, but talks too much, and Brenner shoots him in the head. She looks for Emily, but Mama holds a knife to Emily's throat. Brenner attempts to rescue her, but Mama brutally kills Emily and vanishes. With all the men dead, Brenner makes her way to a car and drives off. 3 months later, Sheriff Hobbs receives a call from Brenner and looks concerned. At Mama's cabin, she sits in a chair outside when a bullet hits her in the head, killing her instantly.